Hey everybody, how are you guys? I hope you guys are good. Hope you're having a good night, day, depending on where you are. Alright, so I want to talk a little bit about Alex Murdaugh and the trial, and things leading up to the trial, things surrounding the family, and just a little bit of info on all of that. So, let's start with Stephen Smith, who graduated with Buster. He was found DEAD in the road in 2015. His car was found out of gas a few miles away. It was like he was walking home. They found him. It was blunt force trauma was the cause of death. And there was rumors all over town that the Murdaugh son was involved. But, I mean, everybody was talking about it, but nobody could prove it. So, you know, were they responsible? We still don't know that. Secondly, let's talk about Gloria Statterfield, who was the Murdaugh's housekeeper for 20 years. She supposedly tripped over the dogs, fell down the stairs, hit her head, and died. And, you know, died. Now, Alex claimed full responsibility for that. So, the insurance company ended up paying out $4.2 million settlement. But instead of it going to the family, Alex had created this account. It went into an account, and he took all the money back. As a matter of fact, her family didn't even know that the insurance company paid out that money. That's how screwed up that was. And that's how shady Alex is. Okay? Next thing, so I'm just going to go through my list of notes and go over this with you guys. So Maggie Murdaugh, her estate was worth $4.2 million, and it was all in assets. Her actual bank account that only belonged to her had less than $58 in it. She had $4,000 in accounts that were in joint accounts with Alec and Buster. She had $111,000 in assets, which were 4 cars, including a 2021 really nice BMW. Maggie was the sole owner of the Moselle property, so that was all hers, and she was joint owner of their beach house. She had 3 mortgages totaling more than $2 million. Now, Maggie was going to leave Alex. They were separated at the time that this happened to her. She had actually found, first of all, they had actually found her wedding ring in her vehicle. It was not on her body, which should tell you something. So she had found a stash of Alex's pills and started looking into their finances because of their son's upcoming civil suit. Now, because they were already separated, if she was going to divorce him, she would have taken half of everything. He would have lost a lot of money and a lot in property value. So he couldn't have that. So there's the motive for her murder, okay? As far as Paul goes, the motive for killing Paul. Now, Paul was set to start his civil trial for the boating accident that took the life of Mallory Beach. Alex would have lost a lot of money in that suit, okay? Not only that, but Paul was the troublemaker. He was the kid who walked around with the attitude like, I'm a Murdaugh, you can't touch me, I can do whatever I want. So he was constantly getting into trouble, causing the family problems, and Alex looked like, to him, Paul was an embarrassment to the name, an embarrassment to the family, always causing them to look bad, right? So, not for nothing, but this family did have a lot of people that did not like them. They did have a lot of enemies, okay? But that's enough right there. Motive, right? And I also want to talk about, so Maggie was killed with a .300 Blackout, which is a rifle. Paul was killed with a 12-gauge shotgun, neither of which they found. They don't have either murder weapon. They did say that they had found both types of shells and casings throughout the property, like used for target shooting and stuff. So both of the types of ammo that they found on the property matched the types of ammo that were used to commit this crime. Problem is, they don't have either gun. Now, Paul owned a .300 Blackout, and it's been missing for a long time, right? Alex said he lost it. He said Paul lost it somewhere. Is that the gun? We don't know. But they don't have either murder weapon. And Buster had gotten kicked out of law school for cheating, right? So Alex was trying to get him back into law school. Just want to put that in there because it just goes to show how this family works, right? Okay. Now, I listened to the jailhouse calls between Alex and Buster. And I'm not going to lie, it does make me wonder if Buster didn't know what happened that night. He liked his lifestyle, okay? He didn't want to lose it. He liked the money. He liked what came along with the name. You know, he liked all of that. Now, I'm not saying he is involved, but I am saying that it would not surprise me. Okay? I would not rule that out. Right? So they've got the prosecution rested with no murder weapons, no blood except the little bit that was on the steering wheel, and no gunshot residue on his hands. No blood of theirs on his clothes, which, by the way, they didn't even have the clothes from that night. Okay? Now, there's rumors going around that he had showered before he called the cops that night. Now, if that's true, we're never going to know because they didn't test the drain. They should have tested the shower drain for traces of Maggie and Paul's blood. Why that was not done, I have no idea. Was it because some of the cops that showed up that night were friends of the family? Was it we don't know. Right? Now Alex said that he did check their pulse. But I don't believe that because he didn't have any blood on his hands during the body cam of when the cops showed up there. So if he would have said that to me and I was the cop and he was like, yeah, I checked their pulse, I would have expected to see blood all over his hands. You didn't see that in the video. So not really sure what's up with all of that. But if he did, that would explain the blood on the steering wheel, right? Now, Maggie had unknown DNA under her nails. Cops said, no, this is on the other hand, okay? Maggie had an unknown person's DNA under her fingernails. The cops didn't look into the people that Alex owed money to for drugs, which seems very odd to me. Like the Sandhill gang they brought up in trial. Why they wouldn't have been looked into, knowing somebody owes somebody money for drugs. Well, back then, of course, they didn't know that. Back then, they didn't know about that. Because that was not brought up, which brings me to my next point. If it wasn't Alex, and this was a killing because he owed these certain people money, he would not even have been able to tell the cops that, right? Because that would have at the time that this happened, nobody knew about his financial stuff. Nobody knew about his drugs and his gambling, right? So if that was the case, and he knew that, he still wouldn't have been able to say anything without opening the can to all his shady financial dealings and his drug and gambling problems. Him saying, listen, I owed money to these people, that could have been who did this. He wouldn't even have been able to say any of that. So, not for nothing, I'm just saying. Another thing is SLED agent David Owen, who was the lead investigator on the case, he lied in his statement to the grand jury, which came out during this trial. But maybe he felt like he had to, because this family has gotten away with so much stuff in the past that he just didn't want to take a chance that he would get away with this again. So maybe he felt like he had to fib a little bit to the grand jury to get the indictment, right? We don't know. That could have been the case, though. Because I was kind of, when I found out that he had lied to the grand jury, I was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And the more I learned about this family, the more I thought, okay, maybe he thought he had to, so they wouldn't, Alex wouldn't get away with this, right? Let's get it to trial anyway. There's just so many freaking things in this case. It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy the amount of stuff. Now let's talk about Curtis Smith, right? Who everybody calls Cousin Eddie. Alex really was trying to use him as the fall guy and was throwing him under the bus. And that just goes to show you the type of person that he is. Everybody is expendable to him. Everybody is, you're not important. Alex and his problems are important. Alex and his drugs are important. Alex and his gambling are important. If you don't, and his money. If it don't fall into that category, forget it. You know what I mean? Alex has already been proven to be a liar over and over and over again. But does being a liar make you a murderer? No. But it does go to character, right? And let's not forget that he had gotten fired. He had gotten fired from being a lawyer, from the family business, from stealing, from taking money from clients and keeping it from the law office. He's just a shady, greedy guy. Does that make him a murderer? Well, lucky for me, that's not for me to decide, right? That's up to the jury. Now, I will say this. I hope that if he is guilty and he did do this, I hope he has to pay for it. I hope no jury members are bought off. I hope there's no shady dealings going on that helps him walk if he did this. If he didn't do this and it was done because, A, he hired somebody to do it, he absolutely should still have to pay for that. He should still be fully responsible as well as the people who pulled the trigger. 2, if this was a revenge killing for money that Alex owed for a debt that he owed, he didn't pull the trigger, but that's on him too. If this was a revenge killing for Paul from the boating accident, that's not really Alex's fault, but it's just so crazy. There's so many things, though. The way he acts is not like a person who walked upon that scene, right? Now, him lying about being at the kennels before that, so me and Chad have talked about this. Is it possible that he forgot that he was there for a few minutes? Very unlikely. But it is possible, like Chad said, it is possible that he knew he was there, obviously, right? But didn't want to bring, you put yourself there 10 minutes before the murders, they're going to be looking at you. But little did Alex know they were looking at him anyway, And I do believe that. I think police didn't try to look at anybody else. They did not go, they didn't have any other suspects. They didn't look into the drug dealers because they didn't know about them. They didn't look into, all these people who could have had grudges against the family. They had a tunnel vision for Alex. Now, maybe they had very good reason to do so. I'm just saying. It seems like there's a lot of stuff in this investigation. There's a lot of holes where the law enforcement didn't do their due diligence. They didn't do everything they should have done. They didn't look at everybody they should have looked at. For example, I think it's very strange that they did not test Maggie's, especially since she had unknown DNA under her nails. I think it's very odd that they didn't test her clothing for DNA. And they didn't test Paul's clothing for DNA. That doesn't seem right to me. That seems like something is very wrong. Either you got the cops trying to protect Alex, or you've got the cops not doing their job and just looking at Alex. You know what I'm saying? Because that should have been done. Why wasn't that done? There's just a lot of things here that I see, There's just a lot of things that you can look at this and say, okay, law enforcement, I think, you know, didn't completely do everything they should have done. They didn't look at everybody they should have looked at. They didn't, you know, there was a lot of steps not taken. There's a lot of steps skipped, I should say. But at the same time, we don't know if they had reason to, you know, they had a reason for that. You know, we don't know. We don't know what the deal is with that. But you do have to remember that the Murdaugh name has connections back to law enforcement and all of that 87 years back. You know what I mean? Like really far back. So, I mean, there is so much in this case. Prosecution rested yesterday. The defense is supposed to start on Monday, so we'll see how that goes. I can't honestly say right now 100% either way. I can't. I can't with a good conscience anyway. Now, do I think that the prosecution proved without a reasonable doubt that he did this? No. And I only say that because all the evidence they have is circumstantial, and none of it is the smoking gun, I believe, right? No actual hard evidence. But you got tons and tons of circumstantial evidence, which I believe adds up to enough to, you know, really, really, it's going to be a hard decision for this jury, I think. You know, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. There's just so much to this case, and I think it's, you know, it's almost so, it's so theatrical too, like Chad says. It's just it's like a theater watching these things, watching this trial. Alright, you guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I love you guys. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Keep asking those hard questions. Keep spreading that light.